Good morning. This past Sunday, I started my sermon with the question, do you ever wonder if you're good enough to be loved by God? Do you ever wonder if you're worthy of being loved by God? If you wonder that, and if you sometimes feel no, then you're in good company, because all the great church fathers and mothers have wondered the same thing and struggled with that issue. Am I good enough to be loved? What we talked about on Sunday was we don't have to earn God's grace. It is a free gift. And the truth of the matter is, we are loved by God because God has chosen us as His children. As I was working on the sermon, it made me think about Arthur Gordon. He was one of my favorite authors, and I remember one of the stories that he told when he was just 9 years old. When he was 9 years old, at his church, there was a tradition that every year during the season of Lent, they would get a little cardboard box. And then you're supposed to go through that season of Lent and deny yourself buying candy or a Coke or whatever it was, and take that money and drop it into the box. And then at the end of Lent, you brought the box on Easter Sunday morning, and there you were able to place it on the altar, and that money was going to go and be used to help those who are less fortunate. It was a sacrifice that you offered of yourself. Well, they had a little cardboard box, he and his older sister. And as they went through the season of Lent, she was very disciplined. She was always putting the money in, sacrificing. And he put money in as well. But then at a time, he'd always think about, there's something I really do need. And so he'd go back to his little bank and he'd turn it upside down and try to get the money out. Since it was a cardboard box, he actually got a little knife and kind of cut around the top, kind of bent the cardboard so he could get the money back out of it. And he'd put money in, and then he'd get money out, and he'd put money in and get money out. And when it finally came to that night before Easter, he was dreading it. His Aunt Daisy had come to stay with him, and his father called the two kids and said, "Why don't you bring down your box?" And his sister brought the box down, and she dropped it kind of on the kitchen table, and it sounded like a thud. She had been good. It was full. It was heavy. And then he got his box, and he dropped it on the kitchen table. There might have been 3 small coins. That was it. And he felt so bad. And as soon as that happened, his Aunt Daisy got up. She went over to her purse. She got out a big $50. I mean, it was so big and it was so heavy. And she immediately came over and dropped it into Arthur's box. And he was so thrilled. Suddenly his box was heavy. He had some money. But his sister began to really holler, "Aunt Daisy, that's not fair. That's not fair. I sacrificed. I did what I was supposed to do. That's not fair." It was Arthur's father who spoke up and said, "Aunt Daisy, that's not fair. What are you teaching that boy? What values are you teaching him?" Arthur said, "I'll never forget what my Aunt Daisy did." She got up and went over and put her arm around my sister and said, "I know that you sacrificed, and I want you to know it isn't fair. But God knows all the ways that you sacrificed, and God is so proud of you, and He loves you. You're special to Him." And then she turned to my dad, and she wagged her finger in his face and said, "And you, little brother, of all people, ought to know the need for grace." And then she came over to me, and she hugged me, and she said, "Arthur, it isn't fair. But what I want you to understand is you do not earn God's grace. God's grace is free. He chooses to love you. You and I don't earn God's grace. It's a free gift. You don't have to worry, are you good enough to be loved by God? Because the answer is yes. Go out and be safe, and have a great day.